We're recording. All right. So start standing. We're going to do our assessment. Balls handy. So maybe just kind of like walk it out on the floor a little bit and just feel, where do your feet like to be? And then let's shift weight. Maybe a little side to side. Maybe a little front to back. Take a big breath in, big breath out. Land somewhere that feels even-ish on your feet. And then just nod the chin to your chest. Let the head be really heavy. And you're going to do a long, slow roll down. And it's interesting, as I'm rolling down, I'm noticing that my weight is drifting over into my right hip. So I'm just going to adjust a little bit over to the left, just because I'm noticing it. And then down at the bottom here, we're going to hang out and maybe rock a little forward, a little back, a little to the right, a little to the left. And just noticing how that weight shift and change maybe changes how your leg bone sits into your pelvis. Maybe. And then take an inhale, and on the exhale, press down into the floor with just a little bit more intention and do a nice slow roll all the way back up to stand. And maybe a little pow through the foot. And then whenever you feel ready, we're going to roll these suckers out. So one ball on the mat, and then pick whichever foot makes the most sense to you to do first. So for me, my right hip felt like it was doing weird stuff. I know my right side is my thing. So I'm going to start on my right side. So we're going to put the ball of the foot under or on top of the apex of the ball, give or take. And you can always, if that's too painful or too interesting, you can find a slightly different spot. And we're just going to start by kind of pressing weight into the ball and feeling it out. A little press, a little press. And maybe we can start to make out the knuckles in the foot. Or if you're me, maybe not. And then find a lunge that you can work in. So I want there to be like interesting pressure, tolerable pressure, but not painful pressure. And then checking in with your hips and see if you can square those guys off a little bit. And then take a big breath in and a big breath out. And you're going to press down into the ball with the muscles in your foot. So I've got weight pressing down, but then I'm adding more by pushing through the ball of my foot, through the ball. And then from there, we're just going to try to widen the toes away from each other a little bit. And then we're going to try to reach the toes around the ball. And then we're going to try to widen the toes. Oh my gosh. And then we're going to try to reach the toes. And then widen, keeping that downward pressure, and reach, and widen, and reach. And then take a big inhale, big exhale. Keep pressing down into the ball. Keep using your lunge here. Lift your heel. And then we're going to do a long, slow drag down the foot to the heel bone. And I'm going to try to do it by working in my lunge instead of pushing my foot forward, because I don't want to extend my ankle joint. I want to try to keep it flexed. And we're going to reach all the way down to the heel. And then pick that foot up and do another drag. Maybe it's the same drag you just did, or maybe there's a spot that didn't get some love that needs some love. And do a nice long, slow drag down. And big breath in, big breath out. And then lift your foot up. And we're gonna put the ball underneath the ankle joint. So these bones that poke out on the inside of the foot, that's your medial malleoli. You're gonna put it in line with that bone. And a little bit of ball is gonna peek out the side. So that way the ball is gonna kind of support the arch, and then the ball of the foot and the whole pinky side of the foot and the heel bone, they get to be making their way towards the floor. And they may or may not touch the floor depending on what's going on in your foot. The ball of the foot should be grounded, but everything else might be fair game, depending on how hard your ball is and how tight your foot is. So take a big breath in, big breath out. You might need to lift up the opposite heel to create an even pelvis. Again, depending on what's going on with the ball in the foot. And then taking a big breath in and a big breath out, we're going to shift our weight again. So a little forward, a little to the side, a little to the back, and then a little to the other side. So it's like we're circling our ankle joint with the whole rest of the body. Whee! Big inhale, big exhale. And then we'll reverse that circle. To the side, to the back. You can do this certainly without holding on to something. Clearly, I'm holding on for dear life today. Big inhale, big exhale. And then let that even out. Just try to widen your toes. Feels a little bit of equality to the best of your ability, even though clearly one foot is up on a ball. And big inhale, big exhale. And then take your foot off of the ball and just move the ball aside. And again, just kind of shifting the weight a little bit and seeing what's up. And we're going to take a big inhale, big exhale, a little nod and a little curl, and we're going to roll down. That feels different. Every time, I'm always surprised. Inhale, exhale, press down through the feet, roll back up. All right, let's do the other foot. So, bring it under the ball of the foot, a little mini lunge stance here. And we're just going to start with some heel presses, some foot presses. We're just pressing into the ball. We're adding a little bit of pressure. We're kind of waking up the nervous system, waking up the nerves in the foot. And then when you find some pressure that's tolerable, I want you to keep that pressure and then check in with your lunge, and you're going to try to square your pelvis off to the best of your ability. And then keep pressing down through the ball. And then we're going to try to widen the toes away from each other without lifting off of the ball. We're still pressing down and we're just widening. And big breath in, big breath out. And then reach the toes down and around the ball. And then we're going to widen them. And we're going to reach them. And we're going to widen. And we're going to reach. And we're going to widen. And we're going to reach. And we're going to widen. And we're going to reach. And take a big breath in, big breath out. Relax the toes a little. And then let the heel lift up. We're going to try to maintain a bit of a lunge as we drive the ball down the foot. You pause anywhere you need to pause if it's interesting and you want to breathe. Big breath in, big breath out. And we'll do it again, maybe going down a road less traveled, maybe not. Big inhale. Big exhale, all the way down to that heel. Beautiful. And we'll lift it up. And then we're going to do that ankle joint. So we're going to put the ball underneath that ankle bone. It's also right before you hit the heel bone. There's just like a little pocket of space. And then you'll have a little bit of half moon of ball peeking out on the inside, and the ball of the foot will be firmly planted on the floor, imagining the pinky side of the foot and the heel bone dropping down and around the ball. And it might actually do that. It also might not. And we're gonna take a big breath in and a big breath out. Big inhale, big exhale. And then we'll start our circles. So shifting the weight a little forward, a little back, a little side to side. And we're just trying to kind of move around that ankle joint. So I'm not just like sticking my butt back, like the whole thing is moving. My whole skeleton is moving. Throw Lynn on here. Big breath in. Big breath out. And then we're going to reverse the circle. Big inhale. Big exhale. And then whenever you feel ready, we'll let that kind of settle and just take a minute. Big breath in, big breath out, just trying to get a little heavier. One more inhale. And then exhale, we're going to take the foot off of the ball. I'm going to take a second. Find those feet and take a big breath in, big breath out. We're going to take a little nod and a little curl. And we're going to do our roll down again. Again, a nice, just checking in. Ooh, ooh, ooh. And big breath in, big breath out. Whenever you feel ready, you're going to press away from the floor. You're going to roll on back up to stand. And then we're going to move our way up the leg. So we're going to go into that tib anterior. So here's the shin bone. Here's that muscly space to the side of the shin. Here-ish. So you could play with being close to the knee. You could also play with being closer to the ankle joint. If you pull your toes back, you're going to feel that muscle pop up under your fingers. And so this is going to give you some idea of like the space that you have to work with. And then you have the option of putting this up on a yoga brick if you want to be able to point and flex your foot, or you're going to keep it on the flat on the mat like that. And you're going to watch your ankle, that it's not going to sickle in towards the midline. That you're going to try to keep that foot neutral-ish. And so once you find kind of where you want to be in your shin bone, you're going to sit your butt back. And so the more I reach my butt back towards my heel, the more pressure is in the ball. So maybe hanging out here is good for you today. And maybe it's coming all the way back. Once you find the amount of down pressure that you want on the ball, you can play with rotation, letting your butt kind of drop to the side, the same side as ball. And the ball will kind of move up between your tibia and your fibula a little. And so then you can play with your rotation. If you're up on the yoga brick, you have the option of playing with both of those things and then also playing with the point and flex, because you would have the elevation to move your ankle joint. So you can decide what feels best for you. I want to work on getting more comfortable with my foot long on the mat. I tend to get foot cramps. So this is my goal today. So we're going to take a big breath in and a big breath out. And you can play with how deep you move into that flexion back here, that hip flexion, knee flexion, and then also that rotation. Big breath in, big breath out. One more. Big inhale, big exhale. And then whenever you feel ready, take the ball, and maybe it's the ball and the brick, out from underneath your shin, and then try for a child's pose. And so like for me, I'm really working on trying to get my ankle nice and flat towards the mat. I'm getting there. Slowly but surely. Big breath in, big breath out. And then whenever you feel ready, we'll do the other side. So again, take a second, find your shin bone, maybe pull your toes back, feel where that muscle pops up, and then decide kind of where your boundaries are and then where you want to explore. And then finding your spot, maybe doing a little rolling to get there. And then play with how much weight goes back. The more weight that goes back, the more pressure is going to push down on your ball. Big breath in, big breath out. Big inhale. Big exhale. And then find a little press back, hold that, and then find a little rotation, maybe. And so then you can play with how much you want to rotate and how much you want to press back. And also kind of fun to just notice what your hip likes to do. My hip really wants to hike up on this side, so I got to work extra hard to keep it nice and long. And then play with that rotation. Big breath in. Big breath out. I'll take a few extra breaths over here because I know I didn't talk quite as long. Check in with your jaw and your butt and your forehead. Make sure that they're relaxed. Big breath in. Big breath out. One more big inhale. And exhale. And then whenever you feel ready, maybe play with that child's pose and just see what space you have in there. Big breath in, big breath out. And then whenever you feel ready, you're going to just come forward onto your tummy and we're going to do the quads. And I guess caveat, option to use one ball or two if you've got the two in the bag. I actually prefer in the two of the bag because there's just, you get a little bit more and they don't roll around. And I hate chasing balls around the studio. I already have enough Lola throwing them at me all day. So lying on your tummy, you're going to find somewhere in the front of your thigh. So the top quadricep muscle attaches to your knee and then up to your hip point. And so if I'm following that line, and for almost everybody, it tends to be a little tighter, that you want to play with maybe a little bit of an angle when you come down onto your tummy. So it goes on that kneecap and then it goes here and then attaches there. So you can play with it, but I'm going to start with mine a little bit already on the lateral side as I lie down, and then it kind of drags my tissue towards the midline. And then my other leg, I'm going to externally rotate it and bring my knee up the mat a hair. So that way it helps me to keep downward pressure on the balls. And then taking a big breath in and a big breath out. See if you just let your leg relax a little more. So like, I could be kind of like tensiony off the balls or a little gooier. Big breath in, big breath out. So from here, we're going to keep that weight and nice and slow. Start to pull the heel towards the butt, maybe. So I can't really do it today. It's very tight. So I'm going to go like little bend to little straightened and try to build a little bit more range as I go. Maybe. Woo! Big breath in. Big breath out. Big inhale, big exhale. Working with that bend and straighten. And if you want to, you could just stay here. It could be that this bend and straighten is enough for you. If you want to bend the knee and then play with rotation, going a little this way and a little that way, feel free. If that rotation feels really good, maybe stay in a rotation that's super interesting and then try to straighten the leg from there. Maybe. And you can play with it. Big breath in. Big breath out. So long as you're breathing, you're doing great. Big inhale. Woo, big exhale. Maybe pause somewhere and just see if you can relax a little more. I started to get a little tensiony. And let's give a few more passes, whether that's movement or just breath. Big inhale, big exhale. One more, big breath in. Big breath out. And then whenever you feel ready, let your leg extend and rest down on the floor and see if you can just like around the balls a little bit more. I know that was such a anatomical cue. Just chill around the ball just a little tiny bit more. Big breath in, big breath out. Oh. And then whenever you feel ready, take your leg off of the ball. An option to do a child's pose or any other stretch that's calling your name. And just take a minute. One of the things I like about child's pose is that that's going to ask for some length out of your quads that we just rolled out, particularly if you keep your butt wide versus rounding through your spine. And then it's also bringing back in that front of the ankle business that we did. And so you can kind of see what feels appropriate. Big inhale, big exhale. And then whenever you feel ready, slide forward again, and we're going to put the ball underneath the other quad. So again, I'm going to play with going a little bit more laterally as I go down. So a little bit more on the outside of my leg. Ooh, the sun came out. And then take a big breath in and a big breath out. And you know, when you're looking for a spot, it should be interesting, but I don't want it to be so interesting that you can't breathe or you can't relax your leg just a little bit on that ball. Big breath in, big breath out. And then whenever you want to add in your knee flexion, when it bends, extension when it straightens, feel free. Maybe you start small and work your way towards a larger range of motion, or maybe you just go right into it. I don't know. You can decide. This side is far less interesting for me. So my range of motion comes pretty quickly. Big breath in and big breath out. Making sure your forehead is relaxed, your hands are relaxed, your jaw is relaxed. Big inhale. Making sure that breath is moving all the way through your butt. And then if you want to, bend that knee and play with your rotation, letting the foot drop towards the midline and towards the outside of the mat. Big breath in, big breath out. And if there's an angle in there that's really calling your name, keep that angle and add in that leg extension again. And just see how things might be different on this side. And maybe there's a moment when you extend your leg and you pause for a second and you just try to get heavier around your balls and let go of a little bit of any resting tension. Oh, and then try again with the movement and see how maybe that shifts. Big breath in, big breath out. Let's do 2 more passes. Whatever that means to you, breathing or movement. And then let your leg extend and rest. And see if you can just get heavier around the balls for just 2 more breaths here. Big breath in. Big breath out. 1 more inhale. Exhale. Whenever you feel ready, you can take the balls out and then head into that child's pose if that's what is your kind of check-in. Or if it's a different stretchy moment. Oh, and big breath in, big breath out. All right, whenever you feel ready, we're gonna lie on our side and use a yoga brick or a pillow or a bolster for your head. You could also use your arm, but if you're at home and have all the things, we're gonna take the balls and we're gonna put them in the side butt here. So here's your hip point. Here's your greater trochanter. We don't want it on this. We want it above that. Just a little back from that hip point, somewhere in that well of the hip. If you're still using 2 balls, then you're going to get the front fibers and the back fibers. And if you're just using 1, that's totally fine. It just isn't going to have as much of a spread. So lie on your side, bend your knees and bring them up, and you're going to rock your pelvis a little forward and a little back. And you're going to breathe. Big breath in, big breath out. And you might find that as you're like rolling this out, that what was interesting very quickly loses its interestingness. And if you want to then move the balls to look for more interesting, feel free to do that. So don't feel like you're kind of stuck ever. Or if it's too interesting, by all means, move the balls. All right, so let's take 1 more rock like this. Big breath in, big breath out. And then you're going to take your top leg and externally rotate it, bring your foot to the mat. And then we're going to do the same thing. Oh, we're going to rock back a little bit deeper. And a little forward. And a little bit deeper. And back. Breathing, breathing. And then land on an angle that feels interesting, but not undoable. And you're going to keep your bottom foot on the mat. You're going to lift your top knee off of the mat. That's going to pull those tissues into some length. And then when you drop the leg back down, it'll release them back into slack. And so then maybe take a minute and breathe there. And then do it again. A little lift and a little lower. Big breath in, big breath out. Little lift and little lower. Little lift. Little lower. And little lift. And little lower. And then pause and take a big inhale, big exhale. Take your top leg, stack it back on top. And then again, pause and maybe take a little rock. And breathe. Big breath in, big breath out. Whenever you feel ready, we're going to rotate onto our backs. We're going to wait to do the other side and do another spot here. So you can take your balls out from underneath your hip and roll onto your back. And then I want you to take one of the balls out. And then you're going to take the ball to the top of your butt crack and a little to the right. Now, I want you to make sure when you go to the top of the butt crack and a little to the right, that the ball is in fleshiness. It's not on bone. And pause here for a second and just see how it feels. And then take your left hand and put it underneath your left butt cheek and decide if you like that better. Options. And then toe heel your feet about as wide as your mat and drop your knees together. And then drop your knees apart. And together. And apart. And we'll move through that rotation a couple more times. Big breath in. Big breath out. And then on your next pass, when your knees drop together, you're going to keep your knees dropped and take a big inhale, big exhale. Drag your pubic bone towards your sternum. So you're tucking a little bit and then just let the tuck go. Drag your pubic bone towards your sternum and then let that go. A little drag, a little release, a little drag, a little release, a little drag, and a little release. Then from here, you're going to take your right hip and you're going to try to hike it up towards your right ribs. And then you're going to do the opposite. The left hip is going to hike up towards the left ribs, which is going to cause that right side to get longer. And then we're going to do it again. So we're going to do a little hip hikey, hip hikey. And a little and a little. And if there's one of these things that like felt really good and you're like, oh yeah, this, I want to do this, then focus on whatever that movement is for the next few breaths. I'm really enjoying the hikey thingy. Maybe you enjoyed the knees dropping together or the tucky untucky. And big breath in, big breath out. Ooh. And then one more big inhale, big exhale. And then take your hand out from underneath your butt. Take the ball out from underneath your butt. And for a minute, have nothing underneath your butt. Just see what that feels like. And take a big breath in and a big breath out. And then we're going to do one more spot of just the ball on this same butt. So you're going to come up to sit. Maybe you want to roll onto your side to come up to sit. Or just come up. Same side that we've been working on. So I'm going to take my right ankle to my left knee. So my right butt is what's exposed. And then we're going to take the ball and I'm going to offer you two options. So one is you're going to find the sitting bone and you're going to slide it up. So it's just kind of hitting the back side of your sitting bone, or you're going to take it to the side of your sitting bone. So it's either going to be, here's my sitting bone, and then the ball just moves up a little bit, or here's my sitting bone, and it's going to move to the side a little bit. And you can decide which one feels interesting. Once you find your spot, I want you to see if you can drop your butt totally down and around the ball. And then you're going to shift your pelvis. You're going to rotate it rather by letting your knee drop to the side. So then my ball is kind of enveloped by my butt. And then we're going to come off of it a little bit. And then we're going to do that again. A little bit of rotation and a little bit of rotation. And we're going to breathe. Rotate into it. Rotate away from it. If you feel anything nervy, find a slightly different spot. So if it's causing any sparks down your legs or numbness, and then find a little bit of rotation that you can work in, that you can hold. Take a big breath in, big breath out, and then just pull your knee towards your chest and then let it drop away. And pull the knee towards your midline and then away. And pull it and relax it and pull it and relax it. Last one, pull it and relax it. And then let that go. Take the ball out. And now option, child's pose, or maybe come back to your roll down. I'm going to do a roll down. Since we just did like that whole hip, I'm very curious to see how it feels. So I'm going to take a big breath in and a big breath out. Or maybe it's just child's pose and breathe through your butt. Both are great. Oh, that feels better. Big breath in, big breath out, and then roll all the way back up. If you're doing that, or come forward out of your child's pose. And then let's do the other hip. So we'll do that whole hip sling. So again, here's your ASIS. We're going to put the ball somewhere just back of the ASIS and not down on the greater trochanter. So we're keeping it in this well of the hip. If you're doing the two balls in the bath, then one is going to hit more of the anterior fibers and the other one's going to hit more posterior. And if you're doing a single ball, it'll just be somewhere in the middle, and then you can move it as you see fit. So lie down on your side. And take a big breath in and a big breath out. And settle in. So we're going to rock a little forward and a little back. And again, feel free to move those balls. They don't feel like they're quite right. And just getting as heavy as we can into the floor. Big inhale, big exhale. Oh. Big breath in, big breath out. One more inhale and exhale. And then we're going to take that top leg and we're going to bring it to the mat. And that's just going to give us a little bit more support to explore those posterior fibers so we don't fall off of the balls. A little. Big inhale, big exhale. Breathing, breathing, breathing. Big breath in, big breath out. And then let your pelvis rock back to an angle that feels doable to work in for a little while. And you're going to keep your bottom foot on the mat, but you're going to lift the knee. And then you're going to lower it down. So again, this is pulling into some length. And then this is resting it back into slack. And big inhale, big exhale. Big breath in, big breath out. One more here, little lift, little lower. And then pause, take a big breath in, big breath out. Take your top leg, bring it down and around. Take a minute. Big breath in, big breath out. One more, big inhale, big exhale. And then whenever you feel ready, you can move your headrest out of the way. We'll take the balls out from underneath your hip, roll onto your back. Take one of the balls out of the bag if you're using the two. And you're going to take your ball to the top of your butt crack and then a little to the left. And, you know, it might be in a slightly different spot than it was on the right side. And then pause and just feel what that feels like. Find what you want to work with. And then take your right hand and put it underneath your right butt and decide if you like that. You can keep it or not. And then toe heel your feet about as wide as your mat and drop your knees together. Ooh, interesting. And take a big inhale, big exhale. We're going to drop the knees apart. We're going to drop the knees together. And apart. And together. And apart. And together. And apart. And then drop them together whenever you get to your next pass of togetherness. And pause there for a second. And take a big inhale, big exhale. And we're going to do those tucks and untucks. So dragging your pubic bone towards your sternum to find a little length in your low back. This does not need to be a butt clench. And then just relax it. So you don't have to arch. You just let go of that pubic bone drag. And then we'll do it again. Little pull, little release. A little pull, little release. Little pull, little release. And big breath in, big breath out. Now we're going to do those hip hikes. So you're going to just hike that left hip towards your left ribs. Your right side will get longer. And then switch. And switch. And switch. And switch. And switch. And then find one that feels really good, one that maybe you want to hold and breathe into for a little bit. Or maybe you want to keep moving around. Maybe you want to go back to tucks and untucks or knees dropping out to the side. But take a few breaths and work on the thing that feels the most like work. Big breath in, big breath out. One more big inhale. Big exhale. And then take your hand out from underneath your butt. Take the ball out from underneath your butt and take a minute with nothing underneath your butt. And take a big breath in and a big breath out. And then whenever you feel ready, we're going to do our last butt spot. And you're going to come on up to sit in whatever manner feels appropriate for you today. You're going to take ankle to knee of the side that we were just working on. And then you're going to find your sitting bone. And then you have the option to just go up the sitting bone or find the sitting bone and go to the lateral side or the outside edge of your sitting bone. Do both and just see which one is calling your name, if any. And then once you find where you want to work, we're going to play with those rocks. So you're really just going to let your butt's just going to drop around the ball. You're not going to roll around it. You're going to find the spot and then you're going to drop anchor. And then you're going to rotate a little in and a little out. So the ball stays put. And then you're going to find some rotation that you can work with here. And take a big breath in, big breath out. Keep weighting your butt down and around the ball. And then pull your knee towards the midline. And then away. So the femur is moving into internal rotation as you pull it towards the midline. And then into external rotation as the knee falls back down. And we'll do that 3 more times. Big breath in, Big breath out. Last one. Big inhale. Big exhale. And then we'll unwind that business. And then option, child's pose, roll down, your choice. Big breath in, big breath out. Little nod, little curl. Roll it down. Big inhale, big exhale. Roll it up. Or just coming out of your child's pose, if that's where you were. All right. So now, whenever you feel ready, grab your 2 balls. I know everybody's got 2 balls in the bag. I want you to use them. You're going to lie down on your back and have your yoga brick handy. You're not going to use it right away, but I want it within close proximity. Have a lie down on your back. And you're going to take your 2 balls and place them in the tops of your shoulders. So I'm spinding my bottom of my cervical spine, C7, and I'm going to go just below it. It's just in the very start of my upper traps. And I'm just going to have my yoga brick handy. And then once you get down on top of the balls, you might want to lift your butt and kind of scooch a little bit until you feel like the balls are really underneath the musculature of your shoulders. And then drop your head down onto your mat and then let your chin lift up and then let your chin nod down. And I just want you to feel when you lift that chin up, it's getting slack on those back muscles. When you nod the chin down, it's going to ask for more length out of those back muscles. So find a head orientation that allows for some movement, but also some stretch, a little bit of a compromise. Whenever you feel ready, you're going to float your arms up, fingertips to the sky. And then you're going to let that arm bone really weight into the floor so that you really feel your back getting heavy around the balls as opposed to kind of holding tension off of the balls. How much weight can you get back in space? And then take a big inhale and a big exhale. And we're going to take arm circles. So the arms are going to reach towards overhead, all the way out to the side, down by the butt and back up through center. This is like the largest interpretation of an arm circle. We could also do an arm circle that's the size of a plum, right? Real little circles. And it's really just about like what your nervous system can handle, what feels, and that the shoulders are going to have more intensity the further we go down. So you can make choices as we go along. So I'm going to start with some really big arm circles, and then they'll probably get considerably smaller. Reverse your circles if you haven't already. Big breath in, big breath out. And then bring your arms into goal posts. That's going to retract your scapula a fair amount. See if you can allow your fingertips to be heavier than your elbow points so that we work a little bit of external rotation here. And take a big inhale, big exhale. One more big breath in, big breath out. And then bring your arms up, fingertips to the sky, and hug yourself. And just notice which arm is on top as you're hugging yourself. And take a big breath in, big breath out. And then unhug yourself. Bring your hands down by your butt. Lift your tush, and you're going to push your body up your mat so that the balls roll down your back. And you're only going to go down maybe an inch and a half tops. And then put your head back down and take those little nods and just kind of see where you can make it a little bit of work for where your head is. And float your arms up, fingertips to the sky, let your shoulders weight down and around the balls. And then again, circles. They might be smaller now. Mine are definitely smaller. Big breath in, big breath out. Breathing, breathing. Big inhale, big exhale, reverse your circle. Two more. Breathing, breathing. And let's try those goalposts. Let the hands be a little heavier than your elbows. Take a big breath in, big breath out. And then again, you're gonna hug yourself, but switch which arm is on top. Big breath in. Big breath out. Bring your hands down by your side. Take an inhale. Exhale. Lift your butt up. Scooch up your mat. One more spot. If you've gone to the bottom of your scapula, you've gone too far. So find a spot before you hit the bottom. Drop your head. Again, notice. And if you hate the spot, you can always wiggle out of it. Go a little higher, a little lower. Check in with your chin nod. Inhale, exhale, float your arms up, fingertips to the sky, shoulders weighted back. Big breath in, big breath out, nice and slow, arm circles. Check and see how big or small they need to be over here. Might be very different. Big inhale, big exhale. Reverse your circle. Big breath in. Big breath out. Inhale, exhale. We go to goalposts. Try to let those hands be a little heavier than the elbows. Big breath in. Big breath out. One more here. Inhale. Exhale, hug yourself. Big breath in. Big breath out. When you feel ready, bring your arms down by your side. You're going to lift your butt up and we're going to do a long drag back the way we came. So pulling your butt towards your heels, dragging all of that all the way back up. And then you can keep even wiggling all the way up until the balls are at that occipital ridge. My shirt is trying to choke me out, so I'm going to adjust. And then if you want, you can stay here and maybe use your hands to help you keep the balls underneath your occipital ridge. Or if you want to make it more intense, you're going to take your yoga breath, put that underneath your head, and then take those balls, put them on top of the yoga brick, and put your head on top of the ball so that the balls are situated right up underneath that occipital ridge. So yoga brick or no yoga brick, totally up to you, whatever feels appropriate. And then you're just going to lift your chin again and nod your chin. Again, when we lift the chin, that's going to create a little bit of slack and space for the balls to come up underneath the occiput. And then as the chin comes down, the balls will sort of traction your skull a little bit. And there's a little bit more length being pulled on the muscles through the backside of the neck. Let's do a couple more. Little chin nod up and down, breathing, breathing. And then maybe let your gaze drop over to the right a little bit. Even with your eyes closed, let your head just shift a little heavier into that right ball. And again, some chin nods, a little up, little down. Maybe some little circles and breathing. And again, just notice, are you lifting off of the ball or can you weight down into the ball? Big breath in, big breath out. One more inhale, exhale. Let the movement kind of slow down. And we'll bring the gaze back through center and then over to the left. And little chin nods, maybe little circles. And can the movement facilitate a greater drop into the floor and into the balls and into the back line as opposed to gliding on top of it? Big breath in, big breath out. And then again, let your gaze pass back through center. Big inhale, big exhale. A little nodding. One more big breath in, big breath out. Oh, and then whenever you feel ready, take the balls in the brick out from underneath your skull and just let your head have a minute flat on your mat. And maybe play with a little chin nod or side to side. Maybe a little tuck and untuck of the pelvis, and take a big breath in and a big breath out. And then whenever you feel ready, roll onto your side to come up to sit, to come up to stand. Take your time if you're a little dizzy. Find those feet. Big inhale, big exhale. Whenever you're up, there's no rush, Marty. You take your time, but we're going to take a roll down. Starting at the top, right where we rolled out at that occipital ridge. There's our chin nod. Those ribs we rolled out from the back, they're going to soften down. The butt that we rolled out is going to widen and yield to allow those leg bones to come up into the back of the hip. The feet are going to support us. Big breath in. Big breath out. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, push away from the floor. Pull your guts up against your spine. Lend some support as we roll all the way back up. Boom. Boom. Happy Monday. Happy rollout class. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming 15 minutes early for the time change. If anybody has any questions, we can talk. Otherwise, I will see you guys next week. Or not. Wait, let me stop this recording.